We have the pieces now ready, and I want to show you what it looks like. So I'm going to turn this piece over, and what I've done is I've actually taken a Sharpie. You won't need to do that, but I've taken a Sharpie and gone over all of the markings that we've made with our carbon tracing paper so that you can see, you can kind of compare yours to mine and see that you've gotten all of your lines in there as well, like your lengthen and shorten line, your strap placements, your grain line, anything that you need to know. But I want to show you also how this translates. So you'll see that even though these both look like the same pattern piece, they are mirror images because both of the center backs are touching each other. Okay, and the pocket placements are opposite each other. So if you can have yours look like this, that is the goal. You want as much information that the pattern is giving you to be on your muslin so that you are then able to work with it once it's on your body. Just so that we're all on the same page, you should have 6 pieces cut out. You're going to want a skirt back, 2 of those. You're going to want your front, 2 of these, and remember these are mirror imaged. All of these are mirror imaged. And then you're going to want your pattern piece 4 mirror imaged. And you just need 2 of these. You don't need the 4 that it calls for. We're going to now sew our pattern piece together. And what we have right here is the information that we've written on here through the pattern pieces, that we've done the carbon tracing, but that's actually the wrong side of the fabric. So we want to pin and have the fabrics right sides together. You almost always want your fabric right sides together. So I'm going to turn one of the pieces over to where I can see the actual right side of the fabric. I don't see any of the markings, but I do want to find the center front because that's what we're going to pin. So this side is the pocket placement, so my center front is over here. I've written it on here. Now I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to lay it on top where I do see all the markings because it is right sides together. So the right sides are inside and the markings are then going to be on the bottom and the top. So we're going to line it up and we're going to pin this center front line. And you're going to have a lot of information on this piece. That's why it's so great that you marked everything down from the lengthen and shorten lines all the way up and all the way down. So what I like to do is put a pin through that corner right there. And this corner then will match up to this corner, and I can know once my pin comes through that I've got that exactly right. And what I like to do when pinning is I like to then put the pin in on the line. So I'm taking it, I put it through, and then I lay it down on that line so that I know that I'm catching that line and coming through to the other side exactly on that line. And that way it helps keep everything lined up. And I'll just go through and I'll go down here to this lengthen and shorten line. You're welcome to put as many pins as you want. If you want to pin up here and make sure you're still getting that line, that's great. You can do that. You can put it in and come out and keep pinning. But I would do that. I would go down here and make sure that my lengthen and shorten line matched the opposite side of the lengthen and shorten line. And if it didn't, you just adjust your fabric because you know that you trace that off really well. So you just put it in at that corner there that you made and come out. So you're going to go do that all the way down. And once we get down to the bottom, you will then start to sew. And the way we're going to do that is I always like to have the fabric to the left of the machine, not bunched up here in the right. So if that means I have to turn it upside down, that's fine. And in all actuality, here's a little tip for you. You're supposed to sew from widest to narrowest on a skirt. So this will be good and helpful. So what we'll do is I will take my pin out at the very bottom. And what's so great about all these markings that you've made is that you don't have to wonder how far away do you need to sew from the cut edge, or maybe you're struggling to sew in a straight line. This is going to help you. I 100% believe it. So you're going to lower your presser foot. And what I like to do is I like to hold my thread tails until I get my needle all the way down. I turn my hand wheel all the way down, and then I'm ready to sew. I just guide it here. And the whole point of these lines here that you have marked with your carbon tracing paper is that your needle is going to be stitching right on that line. So you don't ever have to wonder about getting off. You know exactly where you're supposed to go. Now, for a muslin, normally we stitch at a 2.5 stitching length, but with this muslin, I like to stitch at as wide of a stitching length as I can in case I have to rip it up. I don't want to have to pick out all the little stitches. I want big, fat, wide stitches so that it just almost rips apart. So I'm going to change my mine to a 5, my stitching length, all the way up to a 5.0. And I've put my needle in. I don't need to back stitch, because again, it might be ripped out. That's for our actual garment, our fashion piece. So I just start sewing, and I'm just gonna sew this line, and I'm gonna do it all the way up. Okay, I'm coming to the end here, and just to make sure that you remember to always take out your pins. Do not ever sew over them. There is no need. It'll break your needle, and it can cause a lot of damage to your machine. So here I am just sewing at the very end, and I'm just going to sew off, turn my hand wheel up, raise the presser foot, and now you can trim your threads, or if you have a thread cutter, you can cut them. So I have sewn the center front of the pattern piece number 1, and if I can get it open, there we go. So now you can see that that is now sewn, and that will come up like so. Once we've got the front sewn, we want to go to the back skirt pattern piece, and that's pattern piece number 3. So you have right sides together, just like the first one. That's where there's no markings on it, and the markings then are going to be facing you and facing down. You're going to want to line up your center back seam, that line right there. I've already done so. Center back, and then put your pins in just like you did. Very simple. And you're going to sew it just like you did on the other one. So we'll do a little bit with me. So take out my pen, presser foot down, hold those thread tails, that bobbin, the under thread, and your top thread. As you pull your needle down, it makes it go so much better. When you hold those thread tails, it keeps it from making a rat's nest underneath, and the top thread then also doesn't come out of the needle, and so it really helps a lot. So you're just going to want to sew that line right on the markings you've made. Pull out your pin, and this is a good troubleshooting. If you have difficulty pulling it out because you waited too late like I did, just lift up your presser foot and just fiddle with it. And your needle is down, so that way you won't get lost. So just put your presser foot back down, line it all up, and keep going. I'm guiding it with my hands because if I was to let go, the fabric would shake. But I'm just gently guiding it. I'm not pushing it, and I'm not stretching it or anything. My hands are very gently placed on there to keep it steady. Take out my pen. And I'm just making sure that needle goes right on that line all the way up. Open it up. This is now the skirt back. We'll move on to our straps next. Now have pattern piece number 4, which are the shoulder straps attached to the skirt back. And one of the things that's really great about sewing tutorials like this is that I have gone through this 6 to 7 different times that I've made this dress, and every time I get a little bit confused on exactly which way these straps go. So I'm here to tell you, pay special attention to the direction your strap goes. So what you're going to want to do is take the end of pattern piece number 4 that is slanted, okay? Take that slanted end, and with right sides together, you're going to lay that slanted piece up here at the top of your skirt, matching those notches, those strap placement notches. Okay, there's strap placement notches right here, and you're gonna mark that corner to corner right on those strap placements. So let me show you what that looks like. So here are my strap placement lines, and here is my slant. And take right sides together and put them right on top of each other and pin it at the little corners, making sure I get those strap placement lines in there. So as you can see, the strap placement line is right there, and I'll just put it through here and line it up. Now, you'll do that for both pieces, and so you want your straps going this way. Now, I will tell you that on the first one, I didn't pay much attention, and I actually reversed them, and what ends up happening, so if you do this, you'll know, is that there becomes a bubble right over your back shoulder blade because it's not conforming to your shoulder. They've been reversed. So if you do that, just switch them. So now that you have your pieces like this, I'll show you how to put the back to the front. We now want the back pattern piece and the front pattern piece to go together at the side seams. So what I have done is I have the front pattern piece on the bottom. You could do either one. You could do the bottom one on or the back one on the bottom. It doesn't really matter. But you're going to have the markings face down to where you see the right side of the fabric with no markings. Then you're going to want to take your back pattern piece, the skirt back, and lay it on top of it, okay? So it is right sides together, no markings are together, and we're going to see all the markings, and then all the markings are going to be underneath on the other pattern piece. And we're just going to line up the edges, the side seams. So I've already done one for you, and the most important part of this is to get the underarm seam correct. Okay, that's going to be right about here, and that's where we want to start. So we take those corners and we make sure that those corners are exactly lined up. Now, if for some reason, because we're human and because we make errors, if for some reason these lines aren't exactly meeting on the other side, try to make it fit, because you probably did a great job tracing it out. However, if you didn't, we don't want to force it to fit where you have a bubble. And let me show you what that looks like. So I've got mine all flat and smooth because mine are matching pretty well. There might be a little discrepancy. But if for some reason my lengthen and shorten line was here on the front one, but maybe way down here on the back one, and they were off, I don't want to stretch it like that. No, I want to make sure that the underarm seam is correct. And on this specific pattern, I know that it just needs to go all the way down. Okay, so if you're off a little bit, it's okay. If you're off a whole bunch, I'm here to tell you, like I said, I've done 6 of these. These aren't off a whole lot. So if you're off a whole lot, you may have to redo it. But if it's just a little bit, you can kind of finesse it, but don't leave a bubble like that and try to sew that. That's not going to work. Just try to smooth it out and get it as best as you can. And then we will start sewing both of these. So you want to do this side seam and this side seam. And for your reference, they should both say pocket placements on the edge, and that's how you know it's the side seam. I'll see you back when we sew. I'm ready to sew the side seam, so I'll put my presser foot down, hold the thread tails, both of them, needle down, and start sewing just like we've done. You'll notice once you sew both the side seams that the front is a little bit bigger than the back, and so that's okay. If you notice that there's some bunching in the front, it is actually wider than the back, so that's perfectly fine. Now what I've done is I am just leaving in the pins for the shoulder straps, just because I'm really just trying to make sure that this all fits together really quickly. So if you want, you can sew these strap pieces on as well. You would just take it to the machine, sew that line right there, no big deal. I'm just going to leave my pins in for fitting. So what I'm going to do is we have it wrong side out right now. And I'm going to take it and just bring it out so that we are now seeing the right side of the muslin. And then what you'll want to do is we're going to put it on, we're going to try it on, and we'll learn how to fit from there.